Yo, what's up everybody? Jumpin' here, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about Diablo 4, mainly about the Barbarian. I'm going to be talking about what I plan on doing once the game comes out, and what kind of build I'm going to go for the Barbarian. Because I think the Barbarian is going to be very strong. Now, I don't know about in-game just because nobody knows about in-game, and I probably would mix the build up and change it by the in-game. But as I actually play through the game, I plan on doing a Hammer of the Ancients build because it is extremely powerful. So I'm going to show you some gameplay right now of that build, pretty much just one-shotting elites left and right and just destroying bosses. Now in this first clip here, I'm going to pretty much just three-shot this boss and I don't even crit him. If I can get like 2 crits, I can easily two-shot bosses with this build because it's pretty insane. But the next clip is going to be me running around killing a bunch of enemies, but what you're going to see is like all the elites for the most part, I'm going to just one-shot them. No problem. This very first enemy here, I'm going to hit this guy for 32, almost 33,000 damage on that crit. It's pretty insane. Now, I also seen a lot of people talking about with Barbarian that you can do a Thorn build and that's his best build and everything. I don't know, I didn't try that build, but I will say that that's not his only build to go for, because he's got some pretty ridiculous legendaries. And the other thing about Barbarian is that Barbarian's going to have more slots to put offensive legendary aspects on. I think that's the real game changer, just because Diablo's all about multiplying a bunch of different things together, and because he's going to have those extra slots, it's probably going to get pretty insane just because of that. So don't count the Barbarian out. There is absolutely no way you can count him out just because he is going to be very strong. A nice thing that they added in the game is the fact that you can get aspects from the dungeons. So I do believe that a lot of the really good aspects you're going to be able to just go and get from the dungeon. And then as you play on, you should be able to pretty much just keep putting those on your gear until you reach the end game, and that's when you're going to want to try to min-max and get the highest stats. Because I do believe the ones from the dungeons actually do come with fairly low percentages compared to things that you can get on actual drops. So that is something, but as you're playing through the game, who cares? That's really what you're going to go for, is you're going to try to get those aspects so that you can actually keep a certain theme of a build going. And yeah, it's going to be pretty insane. This Hammer of the Ancients is super strong. And another thing too, with the setup I'm going to talk about here, this works with any of the core abilities. It doesn't have to be Hammer of the Ancients. It doesn't have to be Whirlwind, but Whirlwind works with this too. And Upheaval works. Pretty much anything you want to use, absolutely is going to destroy. And the fact that this build's not even like close to being like perfect is pretty ridiculous. So yeah, that boss also completely got destroyed. And I did get a crit in the beginning, so it was like half its health. And yeah, it's pretty nutty. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about this, and really I'm going to just explain what my plan is for the build when the game actually comes out. Alrighty guys, now I'm going to talk about my plan for actually making a build once the game comes out. Because I think that the whole idea here is that you're not going to be able to min-max. In the beta, we were able to min-max for the most part because once you leveled up, all you could do was farm for gear. But as you're playing like through the campaign, you're going to keep leveling up. So yeah, you're going to have to keep changing out your gear and you're going to lose certain aspects on the way. So let me kind of explain what I plan on doing. The number one thing I need to get, the most important thing is going to be this right here. And it doesn't matter which one of these core skills you're going to use. This works with Whirlwind, it works with Upheaval, it works with Hammer of the Ancients. It's amazing. So what this does is that each point of fury that you generate when you're at maximum fury will buff your core skill. It goes up to 240%. Now this is the cap. I got lucky with this one. And if you put it on a two-handed weapon, which for the Barbarian, you have 2 two-handed weapons and then you have 2 one-handed weapons, it's 240%. Like, that's insane. And that's why I'm hitting so hard with Hammer of the Ancients. I'm constantly getting 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 sometimes. It is ridiculous. So this is definitely what you're gonna want to find. And then here's what you would do. or at least this is what I'm gonna do. Because I plan on using Hammer of the Ancients, I'm not gonna use my two-handed blade at all. So I'm gonna put this on, and I'm just gonna leave it on there. And I don't have to worry about finding it again or anything like that, because I'm just gonna literally leave it there. And as I play on, it doesn't matter if it's a low-level weapon because I'm not using it. Where if I'm using Hammer of the Ancients, I'm going to need to constantly keep like upgrading my two-handed mace or hammer the whole time. So what I need to do is I need to basically have this particular imprint, and guess what? I think that we're going to be able to get that no problem. Now, you can do Whirlwind as well. If you don't know, the way that Whirlwind works is that if you actually buff your damage by the 240%, for example, then you go into Whirlwind. As long as you keep spinning and you're channeling the skill, you keep that 240%. I did test this, by the way, and yeah, Whirlwind at this level was hitting for like 2,000 to like almost 4,000 as I'm spinning, and I was like, wow, melts all the little guys. Now, it's very, very good for just going through dungeons and just like literally destroying all the small enemies. But once you start talking about bosses and certain elites and stuff, I don't know, Whirlwind is just not the best, but it also has another amazing aspect you can put on, which is this one. Now, the cap on this one is like 80%, but you can literally get your critical hit chance up to 80%. Like, that is insane. You're going to be critting nonstop with Whirlwind, and then you have that massive damage bonus. And the thing is that when it comes to this, and also this one that I have on the Hammer of the Ancients, now, what this does, if you're wondering, is that it just gives you a much bigger AoE, and I think it's like a must. If you're going to try using Hammer of the Ancients, you want this just for that AoE that it does. But both of these effects can actually come from, I think, the next area. So right now, in the beta, we had access to Act 1, and we were running around and everything, but let me go ahead and find it. So the Hammer of the Ancients ones is this one, right? And this is, like I said, the plan. We go and we get this from the dungeon, and then anytime I need to upgrade a mace, I just find another rare mace at a higher level, and I throw this on because it's from a dungeon. And if you wanted to reverse that, then what you would do is you would pretty much take that like really good damage one, the one that goes up to 240%, and you would go ahead and throw that on your mace, your two-handed mace, and just don't use the two-handed mace. And instead, go and get this. It's in the same region, right? So I believe it might be the second area of the game. But you go and you get the critical hit chance one, and then you constantly keep putting this on two-handed swords or pole axes or whatever, right? You just keep doing that over and over again to go through the campaign. I think that that's going to be the strategy. That's going to be the smart way of doing it. Now, if you want to know where that region is, it's just up here. Literally, this is level 25 area. In the beta, we're level 25. There is a main quest that we can't do in the beta, but it's right up here, so I'm assuming that that takes us up here, and those dungeons for both of those are up there. So 100%, that would be the plan and the play. And yeah, but if you're wondering, like, okay, this sounds a little bit annoying because you have to get maximum fury, right? And then you have to, like, regenerate some fury to get that maximum damage. Well, here's the thing. You're going to use your shouts, because the Barbarian shouts are ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And one thing that you're going to also want to find, now this one's going to suck only because you're probably going to want to get this on a ring or like a necklace or something like that. And then I'm just not going to take it off. Like, it's going to be a lower level item that I probably just leave on, because that is the downside, is that once you put it on like an imprint, you're not going to be able to take that off. And I don't think we're going to find this in a dungeon. Maybe there will be a dungeon. I have no idea. But basically what this does is that it will half the cooldown for your shouts. And because you can up the duration of the shouts, you can almost have 100% uptime on your shouts, which is insane, right? And this is going to be a problem because I had bad RNG and I never found this. And if I would have had this, it would have completely changed like everything. The Whirlwind build would have been a lot better. My Hammer of the Ancients build would have been a lot better. But basically, this right here, the aspect of Echoing Fury, this allows you to regenerate Fury when you have a shout active. And guess what? It stacks. So if you have all three shouts on, you're going to be able to regenerate a ridiculous amount of Fury. And I would totally put this on my necklace more than likely. And even if you had like just the 2 fury per second, that would up it to 3. And essentially it would become 9 if you have all 3 shouts. So 9 fury per second means that you're going to constantly be at full fury, and you're going to constantly be getting that giant damage buff. But that is my plan, and hopefully that will carry me all the way to the end game. And it's interesting because Barbarian does have a rough start, there's no doubt about it. But once you can get some of these aspects and combine them like that, you are going to be so OP. So the mid game is going to be insane. And hopefully the end game too will be insane. Now there was one thing I forgot about, and I guess this is important, but this aspect of the Echoing Fury, yes, you can get this from a dungeon, but it says progress the campaign to unlock. It doesn't tell us where to go like the other ones. So this tells me that this is going to come from Act 2 or Act 3, who knows, right? So you can't really rely on that, and that's unfortunate because I guess I'm going to have to get this with RNG. And throughout the beta, I never got it with RNG. So that kind of sucks. But it makes such a big difference for this build that it is important. Now, let me go ahead and talk about the skills, because the skills are obviously important for the Hammer of the Ancients build. Now, the basic I'm using is going to be Bash. I plan on using Bash the whole time just because it's a two-handed hammer attack, and I'm not going to use my two-handed blade at all. Once I get that aspect on there, I'm leaving it on there. I'm not taking it off. And I can't even take it off if I put it on with an aspect. But that's what I'm going to do. And Bash is good. It's pretty nice. You do generate a lot of fury with this, and it does stun enemies, and it does make you a little bit more tanky. Now, when it comes to the Hammer of the Ancients, this is actually really good. You can get 30% more fury if you hit 10 enemies with it. That's really awesome. Works well with the build. And then this basically gives you more damage depending on how much fury you had when you used it. Again, it synergizes really well with the build. Now, I did put points into this. I may take these points out in the future, I don't know. But because I can't regenerate fury like crazy, because I don't have the setup for that yet, I am using my basic a lot. So this allows me to get more fury from the basic. When it comes to all the shouts, they're all really, really good. And remember, because of that one aspect, you're able to half the cooldown essentially of all of these. And if you buff the duration of all of these, you can almost have this up 100% of the time, which is pretty ridiculous. But Rallying Cry, this is going to give you an insane amount of resource regeneration. It is awesome. And it also gives you Unstoppable, which is good, but it gives you a lot of resource popping that. Challenging Shout also is just kind of crazy. You get a lot of damage reduction off of this. It's going to make you so tanky. Plus, you will get some fury back when the enemies hit you if you go for this, or you can go for some thorns if you want that, but I'm going to go for more fury. And when it comes to the final one, this is Warcry, and this just gives you a damage buff. It gives you Berserking, which is good, but the damage buff is nice. I went for the 30% damage, but you could actually switch this and go for more Fortify. And in fact, some of the aspects I've seen, which I don't have, actually will give you Fortify based on like how much fury regeneration you have, or generation. So if you have like the build going, you're going to get a ton of Fortify. It's going to be nasty. And there's passives too that gives you damage and stuff depending on your Fortify. There is some really, really nice stuff. I guess actually it's damage reduction. But yeah, oh my god. And I did go for Wrath of the Berserker. You could go for whatever you want. I think Wrath of the Berserker is really good though. Call of the Ancients is also really good. And then finally, I guess the last thing I want to talk about is I think this is going to be insane. Because remember, everything is multiplicative in Diablo. And this is going to give your core skills 135% more damage. And when you stack all that damage together, and then you add this on top of it, it's going to be nasty. Yes, your core skills are going to cost 100% more fury, but if you have all that fury regeneration, it's going to absolutely not matter. I don't think so, at least. Now let me finish off with the rest of my gear. Like I said, everything else here is kind of a bonus. The important stuff, that's what's gonna matter. But on my helmet, I went for this barrier. I think that's actually not bad, especially because one of my rings, I would probably replace this in the future. It does give me damage if I have a barrier active. My chest piece, because I am using my basic a lot, I went for this. I get 25% damage reduction for 5.5 seconds. My gloves, I have attack speed for my basic. That is important because I'm using my basic for my fury a lot. And I do think this is really nice, by the way, this healing, because man, you're always close to the enemies on a barbarian. That's just the reality of it. And you are getting a lot of healing off of this. So that's really, really good. And for this one can probably be replaced as well. I like the idea. It is a lucky hit, so you always have to keep that in mind. But you can extend your berserking, because berserking does give you a ton of damage. And that's one of the reasons I use Wrath of the Berserker, is because it gives me more berserking. And I think berserking will be really good at the end game especially. So I do think this has potential. And my other ring you already know about. It's the one that lowers the cooldown of all of my shouts. My necklace, this is another one I'm going to replace, probably for the fury regeneration from the shouts. But this one right here is not bad either. Whenever I attack an enemy with my basic skill, it increases my core skill, so it buffed my Hammer of the Ancients. And then for my other weapons, this one is actually really good. Now this goes really well with the build. It's not a must or anything like that, but essentially this gives me 24% more damage if I have a full primary resource. And that's just a 25% more damage like all the time for everything. So that's actually really, really good. And then finally, I'm using this again because I'm using my basic a lot. I don't think I would need this if I didn't rely so heavily on my basic, but critical hits with my core skill will increase my attack speed, and that's pretty good. But that's basically all the gear, and that is the idea for the build. So hopefully I'm able to do those dungeons really early on to get, let's say, this right here, because I definitely think for Hammer of the Ancients you want this AoE effect. It's very, very good. And then hopefully I can also get this ring, and then maybe I can also get that Fury regeneration perk. And of course the main one here is going to be this damage perk. Getting this and throwing it on my other weapon, my two-handed blade, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to just leave it on there. I'm never taking it off until maybe I get another one or something like that. But that's going to pretty much do it, guys. So I really do hope that you have enjoyed this video and that it has helped in some way. If it has, then please like the video for me and be sure to subscribe for future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day, and peace out.